The contract process that buyers go through when purchasing a home can be confusing, exhausting, and frustrating. We want to provide you with some ways to make that transaction as smooth as possible by providing you some ways to tackle all of these issues. I'm Andrea, this is Raul, and we're at the Strader Group. So once I find a home, how do I make an offer?
Well, once we find a home and we get this subject property is what I like to call it, what I'll do is I'll create a CMA just to make sure that the asking price is kind of in ballpark of what it should be listed at. But once we get through that, what we'll do is we'll craft the offer. We'll talk about a couple items. Number one, sales price, right? What are we going to offer? What are our financing terms? That's kind of when we partner with the lender to try to get an idea of how much we want to put down. What is our financing going to look like? But then we start to negotiate what title policy we're going to use. Are we going to pay for it? Or the seller's going to pay for it? How much option period? The option period is kind of that gap to do due diligence and kind of do our homework to make sure that the house is good, up to date, and make sure that there's no big ticket items that the buyer's going to have to face later. Then we'll set a closing date. There's some repairs that could be in there and seller concessions that we could ask up front, but typically we'll wait depending if we need closing costs or whatnot. We could also do something that's called a home warranty, so we can plug that into the contract as well. Just really depends on how many people are asking or offering on this house, what the setup looks like, how many days on market it's been. But what we'll do is we'll get together, we'll cultivate a plan. That way we are able to proceed and be pretty aggressive and try to get this deal done.
So once the offer is submitted, do you do all the negotiating? What do I have to do at that point?
So if it's you're going to do all the work. No, just fine. So what we'll do is once we get an idea what happens, we submit, then myself and the other agent will go back and forth. Typically there's about 2 rounds. There's the initial, what we ask for, and then they come back at us with what we call a counter. And then we'll pick that up and decide, okay, this is fair. We kind of wanted X and we got a little bit more than what we wanted, or we got less than what we wanted, and try to send a third counter over to see if we can kind of mend the middle or mend the gap a little bit. Once we get terms, that's when our option period will start and we'll deliver the checks to title.
So how long does it take to hear back from the seller?
It depends. In the market that we've been seeing, it's not unusual to say we submit on a Friday and don't hear an answer back till Monday. I would say that if the property we're looking at is very, very desirable and there's multiple offers, there's probably going to be about a 3 or 4 day gap. If that property, has been sitting there for a little while and it's a good property, just hasn't been getting a lot of volume on traffic, we would probably get a receipt of the contract probably same day. And either way, we'll probably get a receipt same day, but one might get a counter or an acceptance sooner than the other. I would say within 24 hours is pretty customary, but I would expect as much as 72 hours, at least with the conversation started.
Cool. So what happens once the offer is accepted?
Once the offer is accepted, we get happy and we congratulate and everything goes well. But that's just the first part of actually getting into the contract. So once the offer is accepted, we submit title checks, so an earnest money check and an option period money check. Typically, earnest money is about 1% of whatever the contract price is, and then option could be anywhere from $10 a day all the way up to $100 a day. Just really depends on what we negotiated. But at that point, I will go ahead and set up the inspector and then kind of get some ideas as far as what is going on. We'll investigate the seller's disclosure to see what the roof looks like. Maybe get some of our preferred vendors out there to take a peek at the house, just to make sure that we don't overshadow something that might really be there. And in doing so, we're able to get ahead of the game. That way we know, okay, if we do proceed and it's a 5-year-old house, this is what could be our out-of-pockets 5 to 10 years from now. If it's a newer house, there's not very much to look at other than that the workmanship's been done. But if we're in a 20-year-old house, we want to make sure what we're walking into, because now we're dealing with older pipes, we're dealing with older electrical code issues. So we want to make sure that the buyer is well prepared. And that all happens within that option period. And then we just kind of see what happens. We get the report back, and then we submit for repair request and see where we go from there.
We hope that has answered some of your contract questions, and please let us know if we can help in any way.